So this is Cin2003. Week 1 is about Introduction to Windows Server 2019. So this is our operating system that we will be using for this course. So let me ask you, what is a computer network? Some computers connected with each other. They can share resources and to do specific tasks, right? So there is an objective. Maybe you want to share the source, share to print, share printer, okay? So we have what is the components of the computer network, and we have the benefits. Benefit is we can share resources, okay? Maybe for backup, to centralize administration, for security, okay? So there is a difference between what is a computer network and what does the computer network do, or what is the benefits of the computer network. By definition, computer network is a group of computers connected to each other in order to share resources. What are these resources? These resources can be data, network, services, or even some peripheral devices like scanner, maybe camera, CCTV camera, things like that. Maybe access unit. Same like with our computer, it has components. What is a component of our computer? Who can tell me? Computer, hardware, keyboard. Same thing with computer network. It has components, okay? Such as the operating system, network operating system, NOS and OS, and media, the cabling. What kind of media you are using for the network. And network devices like what? Router, switch, access point. Okay, wireless, that's media. One type of network is called client-server network. Client-server network. Okay. This is the most common network used for organizations and businesses. Here you have one computer acting as a server, and the other computers are acting as a client. Okay. The server will have network operating system installed on it. Okay. And they are connected, the computers are connected using switches. We have printer also connected to the network. So this is the client-server network architecture. Here we have a file server. Here we have switch. Here we have one network on the left, okay, with these IP addresses, all right? And they are all sharing the file server because we are using switches, okay? Any questions about this? IP address. Each computer to be on the network, to be able to access the network, it should have an IP address, okay? So the IP address identifies the computer on the network, okay? Then if we want to do more configuration, advanced setup, we can use also subnet. So you will have IP address and then you will have subnet. Subnet will determine for you which subnet you are part of. We call it subnet mask. You use the IP address and the subnet mask so that you can do subnetting for your network. The most common IP addressing technologies are IP version 4 and IP version 6. Okay. The problem with IP version 4 is limited. It has limited number of IP addresses. To overcome this, we are using now IP version 6 is coming now in the market, because IP version 4 has 32 bits. IP version 6 has 128 bits. Okay. Now the server. Now we have network client server. So the server, as I mentioned, has the operating system running on it, the network operating system. Okay, it will centralize authentication. Maybe you have your file server, you are sharing files, email server, web server. Okay, but nowadays also new technologies are coming, which such as cloud computing. Cloud computing. Okay. And they are also based on some servers. Okay. We already know what is computer hardware and software. Okay. The hardware of the computer consists of what? CPU, memory, hard disk, network interface card, monitor. Yeah. Okay, so these are all mentioned here. We have different type of server sizes and form factors. Okay. Yeah. For nowadays servers, they come in different shapes. These are advanced because now we have data centers. Okay, so we have blade servers. Blade server, you know the blade, are small modules known as blades that are installed on servers' chassis to save space and power. These servers usually populate data centers or supercomputer facilities. Okay, so it's coming on chassis. Okay, we have tower servers. These are single big case servers that stand upright. These servers are usually either used for testing purposes or to provide local services in a SOHO. SOHO and small office, home office. And you will have one computer tower. Usually it's bigger than the normal desktop because it has more configuration, more RAM. Okay, hard disk size also. Usually this is like will be your file server for a small network or for testing. Okay. Then we have rack mountable servers. Okay. These are designed to be installed in a frame called a rack. Okay. The rack looks like this, like these racks. Okay. Or like this one. These servers usually populate on-premises server rooms or data centers. So if you have data center, you will have these servers on racks. Okay. Network operating system, we all agree now that it's called NOS. So NOS is a software that is capable of managing, maintaining, and providing resources in your network. Additionally, NOS also providing you some services such as file sharing, maybe share your applications, control access, maybe providing web services, okay, email, access to resources, okay. Also other functions related to network resources. So NOS is very important component to manage your computer network. Some examples of NOS are Windows Server 2019, before we had 2012, Linux Server, Mac OS Server. Okay. Why they are considered NOS? Because they are capable of providing network services. We started with network operating system for server with Windows NT 3.5. This is in the early 90s, long time ago. Okay. Then we had Windows Server versions. They started to call it Windows Server. Okay. Windows Server 2000. Okay. And in Windows Server 2008, they started to provide server core. Server core meaning it has a command prompt, not only GUI, not only graphical interface, it's command prompt, core. And you have to know the command, type the command. Like we'll get a blank screen, and then you need to put commands. It's called core. This started in Windows 2008. It is a CLI based OS. From Windows Server 2003 to Windows Server 2008, the architecture was both 32-bit and 64-bit. From Server 2012, خلاص, it's all 64-bit. 32-bit not supported. Okay. For the file system, NTFS is the native file system. However, from Windows Server 2012, REFS, a new file system, it is Resilient File System, started to be introduced to replace NTFS. Because NTFS alone is not enough. Because now we have big hard disks, big sizes for hard disks. Okay. On Windows Server 2019, NTFS is a native file system. Nowadays, Windows Server powers many organizations' back-end systems, and it is thus able to provide network services for Windows-based hosts as well as to hosts with a non-Windows OS. So if I have some clients who are not using Windows, they can still access my network. I can manage them. Okay? So this is one powerful feature of Windows Server. So what is Windows Server? By definition, Windows Server is the server's operating system developed by Microsoft as part of the Windows NT family of operating system, or OS. And it is based on what? On Windows operating system. Microsoft Windows operating system. Okay, we have other operating systems, by the way, for network. We have, I think I already mentioned, Linux server, Mac OS server. Okay. Any questions so far? So we reached here. Now this is a history of Windows Server. You can see here in the mid-90s, we had the Windows Server 3.5, then Windows NT 3.4. It was a big thing that time. Then in the Windows Server 2000, after that it was followed by Windows Server 2003. And then we started the data center era, 2009, 2013, people started to use Windows Server 2008 and 12. Nowadays, cloud for the masses era, for people who are using massively need big storage, they are using the cloud, and for the cloud we have Windows Server 2019 and 16. Okay. So Windows Server 2019 is a very powerful server. It is part of the Windows NT family. Okay. It was first released in Windows in March 2018. Okay. It is based on Windows 10 coding. Also, Windows Server, it was released to manufacturing using the RTM format. This is for manufacturing. Sometimes there are some phases for industry when they are releasing the program to the industry. And this one was released to the industry, and it skipped the release to manufacturing RTM delivery format. Okay. In Windows Server 2019, there are some new features or some enhancements for, such as the system insights, hybrid cloud. We will talk about this new enhancements in Windows Server 2019. First, let's talk about the additions. Okay. We have Windows Server 2019 Data Center. This is the highest one, okay? Top of the line. It is for enterprises that own highly virtualized data centers or cloud providers. Then we have the standard. This is full features edition for medium-sized businesses that own servers on their premises. Yani they have the server in their company, in their server room. They are not using the cloud. And then we have Server Essential. It is designed for small businesses that own a single server in their IT infrastructure. Okay, that's the Essential. Only one server. If you have 3 servers, this will not support. You have to buy another one, another version of the operating system. Then also we have Microsoft Hyper-V Server. It is designed as a free product that delivers enterprise class virtualization for data centers and hybrid clouds. So this one can be used as Hyper-V only. That's free. Any questions? Now, how we compare Windows Server 2019 and 2016? And some people thinking, oh, 2019 just like 2016, maybe with just small enhancements, but actually no. 2019 was a big leap. It has a lot of enhancements. Okay. I'll show you now why. Many things. First of all, it has more features related to hybrid capabilities. Okay. Hybrid capabilities. All right. Windows Server 2019 supports the cloud. Not Windows Server 2016 does not support. Also, it supports hybrid cloud, storage migration services, system insights. Both operating systems support storage replica. Also, we have enhancements in features related to better security. 2019 supports shielded VMs for Windows Server and Linux. Both of them support Microsoft Defender. You know the Microsoft Defender for security. Advanced Threat Protection, ATP, which is the Defender Advanced ATP. Device Guard and Credential Guard. This is both supported by them. For optimization of performance, Windows Server 2019 supports Linux, containers, and Kubernetes platform, whereas both operating systems supports Windows Server containers, including Docker. You know what is this? Application students will know more about this. This when you are installing your application, you want to contain it in one place for security. You want to test it. So you create the program in a container so that it will not affect other things on your data center or in your server. Okay?
Like a
container. We call it container, or they call it Docker. Features related to infrastructure management. Windows Server 2019 supports cluster-wide monitoring and duplication, okay, for REFS. Both operating systems support storage health monitoring and VM storage resiliency. Okay. System requirements you have to know also. These are the minimums, but not the recommended. Recommended is more. Minimum is 1.4, 64-bit processor. RAM is 512 or 2 gigabyte for server with desktop experience installation option. Disk space is 32 giga. You will need Ethernet card with a speed of at least 1 gigabit throughput. Graphic devices and monitor capable of Super VGA or higher resolution in order to be able to install it. Okay. You will need a DVD. Nowadays we use, external hard disk, USB. But if you want really to have a good performance, these are the recommended configuration. So these are the minimum. These are the recommended. All right? You need to know both. In which one? No, it's recommended 32 gigabits, yes, gigabyte. If you really want good, yeah. If you really we need good performance. Because here we said 2 gigabyte. I'll check it out also. Disk space 256 gigabyte SSD and 1 terabyte hard disk drive. Okay. Network at least 1 gigabit Ethernet. Yeah. A graphic, we already mentioned that. All right. Keyboard, of course, you need keyboard, internet access. What is new in Windows Server 2019? We already mentioned that it is built based on 2016, but it has more features. Okay, it's not just an upgrade. Now we start to talk more details about these enhancements. System Insight. System Insight is a new feature available in Windows Server 2019. It will analyze your computer or your Windows Server, and it provides you with an insight into the functionality of your server and make sure that everything is running smoothly. It's like a dashboard. That's why they call it Insight. Okay. It uses artificial intelligence, AI, and uses predictive analytics to see past usages, trends, and predict future resource consumption. All data is collected, processed, and analyzed directly on the local server. Although you can potentially forward events to Azure Log Analytics, giving you a unified view of your environment. Okay, very good feature in Windows Server 2019 for network administrator. Hybrid cloud support. Windows Server 2019 enables the improvement of connections between the servers on-premise, on the site, and the cloud services on Azure. This is provided by your Windows Server 2019. That's why it's providing support for hybrid environment. Okay. Additionally, hybrid cloud support enables the applications that are running on the local server to take advantage of cloud services. So this is very useful. I have a server, but also it has cloud capabilities. I did not have this with Windows Server 2016 or 12. Storage migration service. This is a brand new in Windows Server 2019. It facilitates the process of migrating servers to newer versions of Windows Server. It uses a GUI interface and Windows PowerShell to do inventory of the data on the server and transfer the data and configuration to newer servers. Additionally, it may potentially move the identities of the old servers to the new servers. In that way, the applications and users do not have to change anything. Storage migration service can be used as a Windows Admin Center extension. That's very useful. And imagine you have a server, you want to use a new one. So you want to migrate everything to the new server. So this operating system will help you to do that with minimal efforts. You don't have to create new users or any resources again. They are all migrated.
What do you migrate for?
Migrated يعني تنقلها. يعني I'll tell you something. You have a server. You created 1,000 users. Okay. For some reason, you needed to buy a new hardware, a new computer. Okay. You installed Windows Server on the new computer. You can back up your data, but what about the users? That's migration. You are migrating everything, the data and the configuration. So you don't have to configure everything again. Okay.
So بس لازم يكون السيرفر اللي بسوي له مايجريت ويندوز سيرفر قديم ولا أي
New لا Windows Server 2019 new machine.
لا
The old one also 2019. Here we are talking about 2019. Storage replica. This was in 2016, but it has more powerful in 2019. It enables the replication of volumes between servers or clusters both synchronously and asynchronously. Synchronously يعني synchronous. Asynchronous is the opposite of synchronous. Okay, usually such replication is used for disaster recovery purposes. Additionally, storage replica allows users to create a stretching failover cluster for both for high availability with nodes spread over two different sites, okay, which maintain the synchronization among storage. And this feature can be accessed in the Windows Admin Center. Okay. I have class also after this class, so for me it's the same, but some students maybe they want. Okay, so we've done with storage replica. So we already mentioned that they support the Microsoft Defender ATP. What is it? Defender ATP is a centralized security platform, and it's based on a proactive approach for detecting malware. Yani it knows the pattern. If there is a change in the pattern, then it knows that there's something fishy. Okay. It also deals with post-breach detection, automated investigation, and responses. ATP was available in Windows, by the way, in Windows Server 10 devices. Lately, Microsoft Defender ATP became available for Windows Server 2019 and previous versions of Windows Server. Well, they started for client, but because it was successful, they put it on the servers. Yeah, this one you find it in the that's in the yeah for the client, but for the server Windows Admin Center. Okay. This here Kubernetes. Kubernetes was actually introduced by Google and maintained by Cloud Native Computing Foundation. It is an open source platform that enables the automated deployment, scaling, and operations of applications containers in a virtualized environment. And everything is virtualized. I want to install programs and applications on the virtual machines. So everything is virtualized. How do I control, how do I make sure that each one is getting his certificates? They are all licensed. We use Kubernetes. Okay, Google started it. Okay. And as I mentioned before, this virtualized environment, they were using Dockers. Okay, for containerization of projects. Docker was introduced in 2013. Docker technology enabled applications to be executed in an environment known as isolated containers. Yani, imagine this room is my network. I want to test an application. I can reserve one box, call it Docker, and install everything inside it. It will not affect my performance. Something wrong happen, it will stay there. Okay. Docker was not capable of managing large and distributed containerized applications. So the solution was Kubernetes. So Kubernetes is better than Docker if you have more large, if you are managing large and distributed containerized applications. Yeah, for managing your installations
خارج الاساسي.
in all virtualized environments. يعني مش على real computer، على virtual computers. Okay. Kubernetes consists of nodes and pods. The nodes are physical machines or virtual machines, that's the nodes. The pods represents a single instant of an application. So Kubernetes has become a key part of the container technology, often being used in combination with Docker. Okay. So this is all supported by Windows Server 2019. By the way, this is very important, especially for people who are managing networks, applications. Microsoft recommends that every client-server application shall run on a dedicated server. Imagine. You need one server for email, one server file server, one server file web server, one server like that. Okay. If in the traditional deployment approach, this would require you buy physical machines. Okay. But in the virtualized deployment approach, each application requires its own virtual machine. Each one on a virtual. So I will have virtual machine for file server, virtual machine for web server, okay, for email server. All right. The container deployment approach implies that the operating system on the host is shared among the applications. In that way, a container enables the application to run in its own isolated environment with no knowledge of any other applications being executed outside its container. Okay. So with Kubernetes, Docker has similarly been a game changer in application containerization. Hence, Docker technology has enabled easy to build, deploy, and run application images. Docker consists of Docker engine. There we said we have nodes and pods, right? Docker has Docker engine, which powers Docker containers. Originally, it was written for Linux, and after a lot of development work, it is now supported on Windows and Mac OS. Such like any successful technology, after some time, it will be adopted by other operating. Container is, as I mentioned, you are deploying a software. You don't want it to interfere with everything in your network. So in that container, it's isolated. Okay. All right. Any questions? So let us take the attendance.